go. There you go. Work, work, work. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Eyes up. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen here in the BetMGM studio. We'll hear from Olivia Landis and Brian Baldinger later in the show. But about an hour ago, EA, less than that, head coach Adam Gase told the media Sam Darnold will miss Sunday's game against the Arizona Cardinals because of a shoulder sprain, and Joe Flacco will take the helm under center.
Yeah, we were all wondering what the status was going to be for Sam Darnold this week. Of course, he went down hard against the Denver Broncos. 6 carries, 84 yards in all in that game. But this is the man of the moment right now, is the Jets have deemed Sam Darnold to be week to week. Joe Flacco, 98-73 as a starter in the National Football League. He is taking control of the offense this week. Last year, in fact, he was the starter for the Denver Broncos. This guy has seen everything in the National Football League. He has thrown for more than 40,000 yards. A former Super Bowl MVP who has 10 postseason wins on his resume. And you know he's been chomping at the bit to get back there on the field. Got a couple snaps against the Denver Broncos, but this week he will be leading the charge against the Arizona Cardinals.
The Jets are 0-6 in games that Sam Darnold has not started. A big reason why Joe Flacco was brought here to be Sam Darnold's backup. But I think the first question that anyone thinks of after hearing the news is, how does this offense change with number 5 under center compared to number 14?
Well, we saw what Darnold could do with his feet against the Broncos. I don't think you're going to be seeing Joe Flacco take off the field and have 46-yard runs. But you are not going to confuse him at all, not as far as defenses, what they're going to throw at Flacco, because he is more of your prototypical pocket passer. He, much like Sam Darnold, has a great arm. He is a guy who's going to try to beat you from standing in there inside the pocket, whereas Sam Darnold, a lot of times you'll see him improvise, and he has that great athletic ability. But, the challenge for the Jets this week is for Joe Flacco to get on the same page with everybody on the offensive side of the ball. That's why this decision was so key, I think, that it was made early in the week, because now you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get your game plan together for the Cardinals, and Flacco was taking all those number 1 reps, of course.
And Joe Flacco last season started 8 games for the Denver Broncos. 2-6 in those games, completed 65.3% of his passes. But that guy right there, that is a sight for sore eyes, Jets fans. Le'Veon Bell, eligible to return to practice today, along with a couple other players like Vincent Smith, Blake Cashman, Jabari Zuniga making his practice debut since being drafted in the 3rd round. And someone like that, like Le'Veon Bell, can really help out Joe Flacco on Sunday.
Well, the Jets so far through the first quarter of the NFL season, 26th in rushing, 98.5 yards per game. Frank Gore is the team's leading rusher with 174 yards. He's averaging about 3.2 yards a pop. But Ethan, Sam Darnold, in fact, is the Jets' second leading rusher, 117 yards on the ground. Le'Veon Bell had 6 carries against the Buffalo Bills, 14 yards. He got hurt running a pass pattern in Buffalo where A.J. Klein was beat on a play, hauled him down. He landed awkwardly. Unfortunately, he went to the sideline, has missed the last 3 games. We talked all throughout training camp while this guy's in great shape, and it is his second year in this system, so maybe he can provide a jolt out of the backfield, because Bell is a guy who, yes, he can get it done on the ground, but he's also a threat to catch it out of the backfield.
For both Flacco and Le'Veon Bell, EA, about this Cardinals defense for a minute, do you think that that's a good matchup for those two guys heading into Week 5?
Well, listen, the Cardinals had trouble stopping the Carolina Panthers doing everything. Carolina really had their way last week. Teddy Bridgewater and company, and Christian McCaffrey was not in the lineup. So this is a Cardinals team that is still trying to find itself. Won the first couple games, but of late have lost 2 in a row, so they're going to be coming into MetLife Stadium, a desperate team, much like the Jets, in need of a victory. But over the past couple years, what we've seen from the Arizona Cardinals is they've been able to make headway offensively. Where they've sprung some leaks has been on the defensive side of the ball. With that being said, they do have a couple of big-time performers out there in Chandler Jones, of course, who had so many sacks last season, and you're going to pay a lot of attention to him on Sunday. Patrick Peterson in the defensive backfield, and they are getting Budda Baker back, one of the league's better safeties.
Patrick Peterson had his first interception of the season last week against the Panthers, the team's first interception actually. But let's talk about this Jets defense. And for more on their performance, not only Thursday night, but just kind of a broad stroke, let's head to our sideline report with Olivia Landis. Liv, what can you tell us about this Jets defense, not only in the past, but moving forward?
The tale of the Jets defense over the first quarter of the season has been a bit of a bumpy road. As it currently stands, the Jets are tied for first in the league with the Arizona Cardinals, with the most penalties both charged and accepted, 32 of them. The defense has committed 22 of those 32 penalties. Last week against the Denver Broncos was an especially tough time in the penalty department. The team as a whole committed 11 penalties for 118 yards. The defense claimed 8 out of those 11 penalties, 6 of them being marked as personal fouls. I was able to speak to safety Bradley McDougald following the Broncos contest, and I asked him, what is the key for this defensive unit to start eliminating penalties moving forward? He said it's the small things. We're committing these penalties as a collective group. It's not just one group in particular doing it. However, he did say that moving forward, the biggest thing in order to eliminate these penalties is especially focusing on the ones that come after the whistle. Those have been very detrimental to the team. Head coach Adam Gase also spoke to the media today, and when he was asked about how the team is planning on moving forward on eliminating these penalties, he was very adamant in his answer when he said, we're going to get it fixed.
Yeah, they have to get it fixed. Last week against the Denver Broncos, 11 penalties in all on the Jets for 118 yards. Let me ask you about a couple guys in a defensive backfield. Pierre Desir had a wild night against the Denver Broncos, but is he leading the league in a very important category now after his up and down night? And also, what have you thought about Marcus May here through the first quarter of games?
Yeah, like you said, cornerback Pierre Desir had an absolutely loud game against the Denver Broncos. 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick six that he returned for a touchdown. And then he does lead the league in interceptions currently with 3 total. Now, 2 of those came in last week's contest against the Denver Broncos. Quarterback Brian Poole also had an interception in last week's contest against the Broncos. You mentioned safety Marcus May. Marcus May is actually tied for the team lead of 2 sacks with defensive lineman Quinnen Williams so far through the first 4 contests of the season. He's been a very vocal leader on that defense. We've seen him truly step up and be a leader on that defense. And he's taken a lot of initiative. He's taken a lot of responsibility. Following the Broncos contest last week, he spoke out and said that the defense really needs to fix things, and he plans on helping them do just that.
Thanks, Liv. We'll hear from you later in the show. And for more on the Cardinals offense, let's hear from Brian Baldinger for another Baldy's Breakdown presented by Sharp.
Hey, thanks, Ethan. Let's do a Baldy's Breakdown here on the Cardinals offense, which includes DeAndre Hopkins, who is targeted almost every single pass play. And, of course, Kyler Murray, the quarterback, who's a real dual-threat quarterback. The Jets are going to have to contend with the league's leading receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, at the top. He's usually the left end. He's the X right here, and the passing offense goes through him. And he's excellent after the catch. And the timing with him and Kyler Murray has been there from the very beginning. And even if you want to try to double him, like right here against San Francisco week 1, he knows how to beat a double team, come back to the football. And then you got to contend with Kyler Murray, who's the league's 12th leading rusher. Right here, read option. Receivers are all out blocking. And he gets into the alley, he has an ability to protect himself. But maybe he's most dangerous when he just scrambles. Like right here, there's quick pressure. And even here, he's looking to be a thrower first, but then once he becomes a runner, forget it. I mean, he can just outrun everybody. But like I said, he knows how to protect himself, and when it's time to get down, he gets down. He's a dynamic player, and he's very difficult to defend. Hey, thanks, Ethan.
Bandana
I
from
love
Brian
it.
Baldinger.
I love the bandana. He wears it a little bit differently than I would, but it works for him.
And as Baldy alluded to, the Jets are going to have their hands full with Kyler Murray, who leads the Cardinals in rushing yards, also averages 8.3 yards per carry. But let's take a look at the injury report presented by Atlantic Health. A couple names stand out, obviously, Sam Darnold, Mekhi Becton not practicing today. And the list goes on and on. The only two guys that are limited, Ashton Davis and Chris Hogan, who's listed with the ribs injury, but Adam Gase said that it's really the rib injury and a lot of other things. So Chris Hogan, it's a good sign to see him just being limited. But in terms of the offensive line with Mekhi Becton, if he can't play Sunday, the Jets are going to have their hands full with Chandler Jones, who's a premier pass rusher for the Arizona Cardinals. And this is an interesting question. George Fant has played right tackle all of this season with Mekhi on the left side, but EA, do you anticipate that changing maybe if Chuma Edoga and George Fant are the two starting tackles against the Cardinals?
Well, we really don't know because it was a rotating door against the Denver Broncos, unfortunately. You saw so many people line up at the tackle position. Chuma Edoga, of course, started. And then Mekhi Becton came off the bench. The Jets were going to use him in emergency duty, and he came in. Right now, it's a strength thing for him. And as practice starts this week, he is not participating. Connor McDermott lined up at left tackle at times during the game. There was a few snaps where George Fant actually exited it, and you saw Josh Andrews at right tackle. So, yeah, the Jets have some decisions to make if Becton cannot go against the Arizona Cardinals. But that's why you brought in a guy like Fant, that he does have that position flexibility where he started games at left and right tackle. And we'll have to see how Edoga gets through the week as well.
Remember, last season the Jets started 11 different guys up front and a number of different starting line combinations. To this point, they've been pretty good in terms of injuries, or pretty healthy, should I say. But this is why you brought in, to your point, a guy like George Fant, why you like someone like Chuma Edoga who can play both tackle positions. And more injury news just in relation to the wide receivers. Rashad Perriman not practicing today. Denzel Mims, who was eligible to return for this game, he has not been designated as a practice candidate, which means that the receiving core is those two guys on the screen right there,
Yep.
82 Jamison Crowder, 16 Jeff Smith. But they could be getting some reinforcements with number 17 in Vincent Smith, who is practicing for this week.
Yeah, little by little, the Jets are getting healthier at the wide receiver position. I know everybody's excited about Denzel Mims, and rightfully so. He did a lot of very good things at Baylor, and everybody wants to see him on the football field. But the Jets, Adam Gase said it again today, we don't want to bring him back too early where we lose him for even in a more extended time than he's already missed right now with that hamstring injury. So I think at this point of the week, you'd figure he's definitely not playing against the Arizona Cardinals. He has not practiced with the Jets in team activities. Rashad Perriman still not full go with that ankle injury, but Jamison Crowder went over 100 yards receiving against the Denver Broncos. So 2 healthy games for Crowder, 2 games over 100 yards receiving. Jeff Smith was terrific.
Very impressive.
7 catches for 81 yards. And remember, Vincent Smith started a number of ball games for the Green and White last year. So if you get Smith back with the aforementioned Jeff Smith, you're starting to see this wide receiver group come together. But Perriman and Mims were kind of in wait mode on them.
It was very impressive to see Jeff Smith, who's on the screen right now, come in after being activated off of IR on Thursday. The Jets play Thursday night, and he has 7 receptions for 81 yards. And I think the Jets are hoping Vincent Smith can have some kind of replicate performance to Jeff Smith in the sense that he can just pick up and almost seamlessly transition into the offense and make an impact for this team. Maybe not only on offense, EA, but special teams as well. Vincent Smith had 17 returns last season as a kick returner, averaged 29.9 yards per return.
So important here for Flacco this week because he is working with Jamison Crowder for the first time in practice situations where he is the guy. And then you mentioned Jeff Smith last week. So Jeff Smith is working with a new quarterback. And then Vincent Smith back in the mix. We're looking at Chris Hogan, the veteran, as well, who's dealing with a number of ailments right now. Hopefully he can be on the field. We saw Braxton Berrios do a number of good things early this season. So interesting week for the Jets wide receivers. But there is a guy that I know Jets fans are excited to see back on the practice field, and that is, of course, Le'Veon Bell.
This offense looks a lot different with Le'Veon Bell, with Jeff and Vincent Smith, and then hopefully in a couple weeks from now or whenever this season, you have Rashad Perriman and Denzel Mims, and that'll be fun to see the Jets offense at full strength. And this season, Pepsi is going live to upgrade your football watching experience. Go to madefornyfootball.com for rules and to learn more. Pepsi is the official soft drink of the New York Jets. And now it's time for the Keys to the Game presented by SiriusXM with Eric Coleman. EC wears many hats. SiriusXM NFL radio host as well as a Jets 360 contributor.
Eric Coleman here with SiriusXM NFL Radio. And my keys this week for the New York Jets as they face the Arizona Cardinals are: 1, the Jets have to take care of the Jets. Self-inflicted wounds have hurt the Jets in the past, along with penalties, mental errors, and if the Jets can eliminate those, it will make the game plan much easier to execute. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, the Jets have done a great job of sustaining drives, but things have come to a halt once they get into the red zone. If they can find a way to punch a few in and score a few touchdowns at the end of those drives, the offense will have an explosive day. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be about stopping Kyler Murray. The second-year quarterback has had a lot of success this year throwing the football as well as running the ball on the ground, extending drives with his legs. So if they can keep Kyler Murray in the pocket, limit the big plays that he does with his arm, they'll have a lot of success. And the main target they're going to have to stop is DeAndre Hopkins. The All-Pro receiver has 39 receptions going into Week 5 and has been a main target of Kyler Murray. So if the Jets can execute, take care of their own business, they'll have a lot of success this week. I'm Eric Coleman. Have a great week.
Thanks to EC. You can see him on Sundays, pregame Central and Jets Overtime. Stats Amazing Time here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM, courtesy of our own Randy Lang. Quarterback Matt Robinson was the starting and winning quarterback for the Jets in their first and only win over the St. Louis Cardinals in 1978. Okay, now it's time to hear from NFL Network analytics expert Cynthia Freeland for more of a look at Jets Cardinals.
Thanks, guys. Last week on Thursday Night Football, we saw Sam Darnold join just Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson as the only two quarterbacks in the past 5 seasons to have a 40-plus yard touchdown run. That 46-yarder is the longest in Jets history. We also saw the addition of Jeff Smith, the wide receiver who only had 1 career reception prior to that game and added 7 last Thursday night. And of course, it was great to see Jamison Crowder, who's now averaging over 100 yards per game, which is very helpful for this offense. That was part of the reason why the Jets had their best third down conversion rate since 2018. And of course, on defense, Pierre Desir became one of just 2 players this season to have 2+ interceptions in a single game. For more stats and context just like that, please join me and Dan Grossa this weekend on the Numbers Game. Back to you, Ethan and EA.
Cynthia, EA, more about the receivers. Obviously, Cynthia mentioned Jeff Smith and Jamison Crowder. I just think that we should talk about this group because the speed when fully healthy is so much different than, let's say, you think about week 2 or week 3 even, when there's no Rashad Perriman, no Jamison Crowder. And in terms of Jamison Crowder, I've been really impressed with his average his yards per catch, 15.6. And I know it's only been a small sample size, but Jamison Crowder is someone that you think about his slot receiving ability. He's quick, but he's been stretching it downfield a little bit.
Yeah, he's explosive. And we saw that when he was with the Washington Redskins. He's carried that on here with the New York Jets. I want to clarify something about the stats we got from Randy Lang. He is right about that was the only time the Jets beat the St. Louis Cardinals, but the New York Jets have a 6-3 record over the Arizona Cardinals. So this week, the Jets will look to grab their 7th win in 10 meetings against the Arizona Cardinals. But great point about the speed. That's one thing that the wide receiver coaches here really like about this group when they are healthy is the speed. Jeff Smith is a sub 4.4 guy. Vincent Smith is a sub 4.4 guy. Once Brashad Perryman comes back, he's a sub 4.4 guy, as is Denzel Mims, and we'll have to see. I don't want to talk too much about Mims because he's not on the practice field just yet, Greens, but when this unit is healthy, there is a lot of speed out there.
And if the Jets decide to try to stretch the field vertically, that'll probably open up a lot for Jamison Crowder, Braxton Berrios, and even somebody like Chris Herndon, who's been kind of quiet through 4 weeks. But now it's time to wrap up practice today, presented by SiriusXM, with the roundtable. So let's bring back in Olivia Landis. And Liv, I'm going to come to you first. Then we're going to hear from EA. Then I'll wrap things up. Through 4 weeks of the season, Liv, which Jets player deserves a little more attention?
Ethan, I'm going to go with cornerback Brian Poole. I think he deserves a little bit more love there. He's currently leading the team in tackles with 23 tackles. He's got 1 interception. He has 1 sack over the first quarter of the season. I think he's a great candidate for this. He deserves a little bit more love.
All right, EA, how about you?
I'm going Lamar Jackson, not the guy in Baltimore, but the cornerback who is starting for the New York Jets now, because Bless Austin came out of that game against the Denver Broncos. Unfortunately, he's not practicing here at the start of the week. Lamar Jackson could be starting his first professional game here Sunday against Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, and company. So I kind of have a cheat code here, Greens. Lamar Jackson got his feet wet in the NFL last game as the Jets dressed 4 undrafted free agents.
Wow.
Now he might be the guy who is even more in a spotlight here on Sunday.
All right, I want to go with the special teams angle here. Sam Ficken has not received enough love. 5 for 5 against the Denver Broncos. He's 100% on the season, not only in terms of field goals, but extra points. So I think Sam Ficken, and what do you think about this? John Franklin Myers and Terrell Basham both lead the team with 5 quarterback hits. Neither have a sack, but I think there's 2 players right there that maybe deserve a little more love.
Yeah, Franklin Myers is a guy to keep your eye out on. And I know Quinnen Williams really flashed against the San Francisco 49ers, but he's a guy who popped again just in terms of pressing that pocket from the interior position against the Broncos. And Quinnen Williams getting some pressure on Kyler Murray this week would be key for this team.
All right, in like 30 seconds or less, how do the Jets get the second quarter of the season started off on the right foot against the Cardinals team?
You got to start it off on the right foot at practice today. You got to get disciplined. You can't have those penalties. You got to work on some red zone stuff, and that is the man who has to have a very strong week of practice because the ball is in his hands, literally and figuratively.
All right, that's all we have here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Thanks to Olivia Landis and Brian Baldinger. You can catch us here in the BetMGM studio Sunday for Pregame Central, presented by Pepsi. And many thanks to EarthCam for additional coverage of practice.